Hope you're ready to rock out with your flock out, Ravens fans. My name is Trace Girouard, and Tyler Jones is out of town this week, so I'm going to be filling in for today's video. And as for the topic of today's video, we're going to be discussing whether or not Marshon Lattimore, the Saints cornerback, could be headed up to Baltimore. But before we dive on into this trade rumor, I want to encourage you to subscribe today, because whether it's me, whether it's Tom Downey, whether it's Tyler Jones, or whoever it is at the Chat Sports offices, we're going to give you guys Ravens videos no matter what, anytime that there's something worth discussing. And on top of that, we're trying to take down the Bengals breakdown in a sub battle. It's April 1st. So let's start it off strong, help out my guy Teager, and let's get this sub battle rolling. And without further ado, let's talk about Marshon Lattimore. So when I was scouring the internet trying to figure out what I wanted to discuss in today's video, I found this Bleacher Report article that suggested a handful of different trade ideas for teams that could really shake things up in the NFL. And for a lot of them, it was competitors and contenders and going and getting one big piece to help them get over that hump. And for the Ravens, it was trading for Marshon Lattimore, the New Orleans Saints cornerback, a former first-round pick out of the Ohio State University. I think that this would be an incredibly big upgrade to the Ravens defense. But let's dive into what Bleacher Report had to say. The Baltimore Ravens gave up the fewest points last season, but the unit will undergo changes and needs a couple of playmakers to maintain a stingy pass defense. Teams rarely trade high-end pass rushers, so the Ravens could focus on bolstering their secondary by acquiring a starting boundary cornerback. Now, New Orleans may be willing to part ways with the four-time Pro Bowler as they continue to develop Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor. Lattimore, who's only 27 years old, has missed 17 games over the previous 2 years because of injuries, which does make this a risky deal for Baltimore. Now, if Lattimore can stay healthy, Baltimore would have an upgraded secondary to compensate for a questionable pass rush. Now, in terms of the player of Marshon Lattimore, this guy has been one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL when he is healthy. There is no question about it. I think you can argue with a brick wall if you disagree. And the numbers on your screen, it's a little bit underwhelming in terms of the player of this kind of caliber. However, he missed some time due to injury. He missed a lot of time last year due to injury. And at the end of the day, this is still a guy who only allows a passer rating of 77.9 and a PFF overall grade of 67.4. Like, he is still a good football player. 8 pass breakups and 1 interception. That 1 interception did come early in the season. However, I think that Lattimore could really be a good addition to the depth chart alongside Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton in that DB group as well. Now, I want you to be the Ravens GM for me. Should Baltimore trade for Marshon Lattimore? Just give me a simple T for trade or a P for pass in the comment section. This is going to be the pinned comment, so if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, scroll on down, let the ad play, share your thoughts, and by the time you hit send on that comment, I bet this video will be playing again. All right, now let's set the scene for this trade and why it may make some sense for New Orleans. We've talked about why Baltimore might want to do this, but New Orleans does have some salary cap money to spend. There's been this whole idea and there's discussion around the Saints for as long as I can remember that the New Orleans Saints are in salary cap hell. However, every single time, every single year, they manage to get out of it. Now, the injury issues for Marshon Lattimore, they have been present, and they, like we mentioned earlier, 17 missed games over the past 2 seasons. That's not ideal, and that's not something you really want to take a gamble on, especially if you're trying to go and win right now. But this is a player, if he can be on the field, will help you win right this second. And on top of that, more reason to believe in the Saints defense and more reason for New Orleans to, indulge in this idea. They have 2 young cornerbacks in Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor that they invested early draft picks in, who they could decide to roll with this season. Like, Paulson Adebo has been stellar on the outside, holding it down, and he had to really step up and be the CB1 while Marshon Lattimore was out due to the injuries. Alontae Taylor, he's a really exciting player, a second-round pick out of Tennessee. He can play a little bit in the slot, can play on the outside, so maybe that's the route that they want to go. But in terms of the financials, because that's something that we always have to discuss, if you were to trade for Marshon Lattimore, the New Orleans Saints would have $31.3 million in dead money and save negative $16.7 million. So meaning you would actually have to pay him $16.7 million to get out of the town. You can go ahead and write this off as a non-pre-June 1st trade. This will not be a non-pre-June 1st trade. Post-June 1, that's where things can get interesting here. You have $10.6 million in dead money if you're New Orleans, but you do save about $4 million in cap space, which you can use to bring in some more veterans after the draft, during training camp to compete to make the roster. And on top of that, there is no guaranteed money left on his contract after 2024 right this second. Of course, things get restructured again. Maybe that's a different story. But right now, no guaranteed money after 2024. And in terms of dumbing things down, like, I know we just threw a lot of numbers, a lot of words, a lot of, nonsense here away. So let's just make this really simple. The Baltimore Ravens could pay as low as $4 million in 2024, and you still have the option to release him in 2025 with very minimal cap charges. So maybe this is a route and an idea that the Ravens would want to explore, but I'm not so sure, and I'm not necessarily sold on the fact that the Saints would want to part ways with one of their former first-round picks. But coming up next, we got an insider from the New Orleans Saints locker room that discussed why Marshon Lattimore could get traded, and there may be reason to believe that he could actually be headed out of the locker room down in the Big Easy. But before we get to that, got to give a big-time shout-out to today's presenting sponsor, and it's my favorite ticketing app. That is Game Time, ladies and gentlemen. If you use our promo code CHATSPORTS, you can get $20 off your first purchase. The Baltimore Orioles, ladies and gentlemen, they are here, and they are ready to go. It's been an exciting start to this season for across the MLB. And on top of that, if you don't want to go and waste your money on spending it on, those stupid, terrible jerseys that they have, you could go and just use that money to go watch the game and go get a hat or something different, or get yourself a, little ice cream cup with the inside the batting helmet, all that kind of fun stuff. If you use our promo code CHATSPORTS, you get $20 off. Now, I love the Game Time app because it's so user-friendly and it's amazing. Like, straight up, they have last-minute tickets that get better, and the deals get better the closer you get to the event. Prices drop as the event gets closer. It's the lowest price, guaranteed. And on top of that, you can see exactly where your seats are. You can know if there's flash deals, if they're doing any sort of fun promos. Like you can see on that middle picture on your screen, there's a little red flag kind of part right there. It's because they were giving away some rally towels at that Orioles game. So that's just another benefit of the Game Time app. You can see when they're doing fun little stadium promos as well. So download the Game Time app and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. That's code CHATSPORTS. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app. Use our promo code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So this is what Nick Underhill of New Orleans Football. He is an insider and a really big insider that's like in the locker room talking with the team very regularly. This is what he said back in January when the New Orleans Saints did restructure the contract on his podcast. It's an option bonus, not a signing bonus. It's set a week before the 2024 season starts, which already happened. The only reason to do this is to leave the door open to a transaction to where you can move on from somebody. Based on some of the stuff that I've heard way behind the scenes, and I'm not surprised that this is something everyone's kind of open to at this point. So we will see if it actually happens, but the table is set for a trade to be made. Now, I don't know if a trade will actually go down, but I can tell you right now, looking at this depth chart, a trade could be necessary for Baltimore. Brandon Stephens, maybe he could get an upgrade with Marshon Lattimore, have him play opposite of Marlon Humphrey, and on top of that, you get a reunion with Marcus Williams from their time in New Orleans together. Kyle Hamilton is a very exciting young safety, and I think that bringing in Marshon Lattimore to this group could be really beneficial, especially for an AFC team in the Baltimore Ravens that's trying to win right this second. Marshon Lattimore could look to bring a ring to his long list of accolades. Marshon Lattimore is a great football player, and he can win and help teams win today. Not necessarily going to happen down in New Orleans. The NFC is weak, but Ravens, it just feels like it's so much easier to go and win the big game. And on top of that, Laddie Daddy has some juice left in the tank. He has owned Mike Evans. Straight up, Evans is an 1,000-yard receiver every single year. And in all of the games that they played against each other, Mike Evans has not reached 1,000 yards. He hasn't even reached 900 yards against Marshall. He hasn't even reached 800. Mike Evans has been absolutely locked down by Marshon Lattimore. And Mike Evans is a really good wide receiver. This is proof that Lattimore still has juice left in the tank. And for the right price, maybe this is something that could go down. I know that Mickey Loomis, the Saints general manager, is looking for an offer they can't refuse. And as of right now, there haven't been any of those. But Baltimore definitely could benefit from bringing in a very experienced and very talented veteran cornerback. So grade the Ravens CB room for me. Just give me an A, B, C, D, or F in the comment section. And we'll be sure to interact with all of y'all down in the comments, to those of you who do share your thoughts. And once more, friendly reminder, thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you made it to the end, you should go ahead and lock us in and subscribe today. We're going to be giving you guys daily coverage. Even when Tyler Jones is out of town, you know we're going to have you covered. So be sure to subscribe. And Ravens fans, hope you guys have a wonderful Monday. We'll see you next time.